Hey guys, it's Richard from Grafting Dragon Fruits, and today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do a V-Cut Graft. It is also known as a bud graft. And these are the supplies that I'll be using today to be doing the V-Cut Graft and showing you guys how to do that successfully. So here is my culinary tool that I will be using to graft, and I will be leaving this in my description so that way you guys can find it. And this is also very important for this grafting method because I'm going to be using this specific V tool to be doing the V-Cut Graft, and that's why we call it V-Cut Graft. I like this set because it comes with a sharpener, and I sharpen my V-cuts before I cut them so that way I can get a very nice clean cut. And when you're doing clean cuts like that, everything is attached easier. It's kind of like a cookie cutter and you just attach everything in its position. Okay, so that is the tools I'll be using. I have an alcohol bottle. I will be spraying this alcohol on these tools and wipe it down before I use it because you want to sanitize your stuff before you graft. You don't want any infections to happen. Bacteria can get involved if you are cutting other plant material. So make sure you're very clean and sterile when you are cutting your grafts. I also have some alcohol prep pads. This is just to make it quicker so I don't have to spray if I don't need to. The tape I use is called micropore paper tape. This is medical tape that you can get at any health store, CVS, Rite Aid, or any store that is near you that sells supplies that help with health. And this is a bag that I'll be using to cover it up after once we do the graft. You can use any plastic bag. These are just Ziplocs that I tear off the bottom. I have some napkin and also some scissors to cut the tape if I need to. And if you look behind me, I already have paper tape that's pre-cut. And because the V-graft is so small, I have really small tape, about, I don't know, I think this is about 1 centimeter long, but I have a bunch of them just in case if I need to. They are ready for me to just grab and graft. Okay, so that's all the supplies that we will be needing, and now let's get into the V-Cut Graft. So first thing is first, you're gonna have to find a rootstock that is established. I personally like to use Sugar Dragon, Voodoo Child, American Beauty, because those rootstocks, once they get roots and established, they get really thick and fat. And when you're doing V-cut grafts, you want the grafts or the branches to be pretty juiced up, plump, so that way it's easier to attach things. If it's too thin and you're trying to attach those spines or areoles into it, it might not attach too well. There's going to be air gaps, and you want it to cover as much surface area as possible. All right, so that is the rootstock that I'll be using. Now I'm going to show you guys how we're going to do that graft. So first off, I'm going to take my V-cut tool. So this is the one that I'll be using, the smaller one, because these are pretty small. I'm going to go ahead and take my sharpener and just sharpen it a little bit just to make sure that it's ready to go. Okay, so that should be good. This is where I'm going to take my alcohol, spray it, let it all drip out. I have my napkin and I'm going to wipe it dry. Okay, so now that I know it's nice and clean, I'm gonna go ahead and start my graft. So here I have an American Beauty scion and a Sugar Dragon scion, and this is a Voodoo Child rootstock. I'm gonna attach 2 of them just so then I can show you guys how I do it with a multiple of them. Let's say you went to the store and you found a fruit with a stem on it, just like my Ecuador Polora that I found at a store. They still had a piece of stem on it that was viable. So I did a horizontal graft on one of them, and the remaining pieces that I had, I went ahead and used a V-cut graft because I didn't have as much plant material. This was a good way to use up all of the plant material without wasting any to increase my chances of success. So this one is another great method to salvage fruits that you find with the stem on it. All right? Okay, so this is how I'm gonna start. I just find a part that I think that is gonna be doing well, and you wanna look at the vein. If you guys look at the dragon fruits, there's always a vein that attaches from the camellia and go up, and you wanna match that part as much as possible when you're doing your V-cut. So I see that the vein is coming from here and up here, so I wanna focus as much as possible to get at that part. So here I go. I'm gonna go right in the center, right there. Do my cut. Okay, so this is where my other tools are going to come in handy. It doesn't cut all the way, so I have this one to cut that, and this one to cut here. All right, so now I have a good cut. There's the V. So this is the part where I'm going to be not using anymore. That's the V. I'm gonna be matching it with another piece. So I kind of leave that on just so then I can see how big of a cut I need. So it looks about something like this. So I'm gonna go ahead and match in the center. Get my V, just like that. I'm gonna cut it down just to get it loose. Okay. So I got my other V part. And it's important that you remember which side goes up so that way you can match it. So you want to put it in right away. You don't want to wait too long. Go ahead and wedge it right in. Match it as best as you can as possible. And make sure that it's all nice and tight. So what I do is I wiggle it back and forth. And if you're unsure if it fits correctly or not, you always can put it upside down. And this looks like it fits really good like that. All right. So I have it wedged in, getting all of it tight. So this is where our tape is going to come in handy. What I like to do is I like to leave the spines up and make sure when you're taping it, you want to make it as tight as possible without damaging anything. So this is how I get it in. And I'm going to put one side down first. You see how I take this one, I push it in, and I pull it back so then it gets really tight in there. Okay. I'm gonna take another tape. I'm gonna go ahead and now secure the bottom. I'm gonna put one side down first. And I'm gonna take this side, pull it down, get it really tight, and tape it right down. Okay, so that is the first V-graft right there. And we're gonna go ahead and do another one. So that was a sugar dragon that I just did. Now I'm gonna do an American Beauty. So if you are always wondering if you can do multiple grafts on a rootstock, you can. If these are both successful, you'll have a sugar dragon growing out of here and an American Beauty growing out of wherever you're gonna put this at. Okay, so I'm gonna choose another one that looks good. So I see that the vein is going up this way. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut like right here, right where the V is. So right there. Perfect. So I take my other cutter. I'm gonna cut it right down. This one as well. Okay. So now I have a perfect V. Just like that. I'm gonna leave that aside. We're gonna go over here, find another one. That one was pretty thick, so I'm gonna go a little lower to keep that consistency. So right here, I'm gonna cut again right in the middle, just like that. Get my other cutter, slit it, slit it. We're gonna take this one off. Okay, so my American Beauty, I'm gonna go ahead and take it now. And we're gonna wedge it right in, just like that. Okay, so now that it's nice and tight, as you can see, you wanna kinda smush it, move it back and forth, get those juices to grab each other. And now you're gonna take tape again. I'm gonna secure the tape. I put one side down. I push everything back down with one finger and really secure it down. So you guys can see the tape is really pressing that down right there. And now I'm gonna get another piece and then hit this part. So I'm gonna put the tape on this side now. Secure it down on one side. So you guys can see as I'm taping it, it's starting to look like it fits in there perfectly. And then another piece of tape. Okay, so those are the bud grafts, and there you go. They look just like that. And once you're done doing that, you want to secure the tape on these sides. So these sometimes can lift up and get loose. So what I do is I just take another piece of tape and I put it right down the center, just like that. And this is just going to help things from getting loose because you want it to be very tight so that they can heal. Get those veins to connect with the cambium layer, and you're going to have a successful V-cut bud graft. And one more right here. And that is it. And that is how you do a V-cut graft. It's as simple as that. All you need is the correct tools to make it easy for you guys. And that's why I really recommend this grafting tool that I have here. The sharpener makes it easy for me to cut things and get things to be very nice and clean. So when I do put it in place, it fits perfectly. And so I'm gonna be putting a bag over this after I'm done. So you want to leave the bag on this for 15 days. And I personally like to leave the bag on for a little bit longer on this, is because the grafting material is so much smaller, it's gonna dry out quicker. So for V-grafts, I recommend 10 to 15 days. You leave it in the shade for 15 to 20 days. Depending how the graft looks, you can take off the bag after 10 days to just take a look at it to see if it's getting dry. And usually at the 10th day, you'll know if it's successful or not, because that little piece, it gets really shriveled up, it dries up, turns yellow, and it just falls off. And if it's successful, after 15 days, it'll stay green, plumped, and it gets actually bigger and bigger, and you can see it start to swell up and it's hard at touch. So at 10 to 15 days, you're gonna go out, touch it, just to see how it's doing. If you feel like it's getting smaller and it's starting to thin out and dry up, you know that it's not successful. So that's why I do a bunch of them. If I have a lot of these, I'll just do bud grafts on all those spines if I can. And then after 15 days, if I see that it's successful, I'll come back, take my V tool cut, and start to cut off all these other spines so it only focuses the growth on the one that matters. And if everything is successful, this is what you guys should see. Here's one that I did already. I used an Ecuador Pelora yellow dragon fruit, the piece of stem that I found at a store. I salvaged the pieces. I did a V cut, and you guys see it starts to swell up, it heals. You can take the tape off, and I'm touching it, it's very nice and hard, and there is the new growth. So that is the original Ecuador Pelora. It's a clone of the fruit. So once it starts to grow and produce me fruits, I'll have that identical fruit from the store. Also, I did multiple grafts on it. Here's another Ecuador Pelora. It's plump, it's still alive, but this one, since it's lower to the roots, it got the nutrients first, so that's why it is growing now. I wouldn't be surprised if this one starts to grow a shoot sometime in the future. I'm just gonna leave it on because I know it's still alive. But that's what you can do. You can do multiple grafts like this, bud grafts, V-cut grafts, and put it on a rootstock. And if you are lucky and if you've done everything right, it's gonna grow. And if that one doesn't grow, you always have some backups there to grow. So that is how you do a successful V-cut graft. All right, guys, if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you have any questions about the V-cut grafting method, go ahead and leave in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can. And if you guys want to see more grafting and dragon fruit videos of mine, go ahead and hit the subscribe button so that way you guys won't miss a single thing. Have a wonderful day now. Bye, guys.